Welcome to the Jungle Brothers podcast. It's your host, Joey. Today I'm joined by Paulie. We go pretty coachy on this one. We're talking about Zercher squats, we're talking about back squats, and we also go off on some tangents about cows and being in prison in Bali. A lot of stuff in there for you guys. Hope you enjoy the episode. Let's go. Funny story from last night. Niece, she was out at the farm to receive some cows. She got some cows delivered.
Farm girl.
Yeah, that's right. And the delivery came late. It was meant to come in the afternoon, and we spoke at 10 p.m. She's like, it hasn't come yet. And so Leo stayed up late, but I think by 10 o'clock she had him in the baby carrier, like he was just sleeping in there. The delivery arrived at midnight, and so it's like a big like a semi trailer with cows in it.
Fuck.
And 5 were getting off. We were receiving 5 cows, and there's 2 pens that we created because she bought 4 cows from one place and then 1 cow from another place. So the 4 cows know each other, right? Like they've come from a herd, whereas that 1 cow has been separated from its herd. Yeah, it's a loner. So you can't just put them all in the one pen when they arrive because
it's awkward.
It's awkward. Like it's kind of irresponsible, you know? So the idea was we make 2 pens and that the one can be in its own pen but it's separated by a fence from the other 4. So they're still getting to know each other, but they can't actually, like whatever, if for some reason there was beef.
I was like, is this a joke? 4 cows, 1 cow? Yeah. And it was a joke.
Boosh.
That was it. Never really happened.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about coaching. No, but so that makes sense, right? Like, so they get whatever, like say 24 hours where they're kind of in, like they're proximal, so they can get to know each other, and then you could release them all into the one paddock, and hopefully they're cool.
Yep.
But the smaller pen that the one was going into we actually used sheep fencing, which is like still pretty high. It's kind of like up to your chest, like when you're standing.
Right.
It's, big sort of steel posted panels.
Yep.
And the other pen was cow fencing, which was like head height or a little bit higher.
Gotcha.
Kind of like octagon height. Anyways, she sent me a video, the fucking, the one, it was quite a young cow, basically jumped the fence.
Jesus.
Yeah, just boosted out of it.
How much higher do you need it to be if it's about chest height?
Yeah, and cows, so it's a young one, so it's smaller, but they're still big animals.
Wow.
And so I just wouldn't think that they could jump like that. The fucking thing jumped out of it and basically took off into the night.
Oh, outside of your property.
Well, it almost went outside of the property. They managed to like scare it back in, but then it jumped the fence again and she's like, I don't fucking know where it is.
But what's the worst case? Like, what could happen if it was in with the other girls?
Well, I don't think anything. Like, I don't know if they fight or they try and kill each other. I don't think it's that kind of party. It's more just I guess it's just like kind of like when you get a dog or something. You keep them. You often when they're new, you keep them in a bit of a cage,
sure,
like a pen,
to get used to the.
You just make their environment small,
sure.
So there's less stimulus. You give them food, you give them water in there, and so they can just kind of settle. And then you go, hey, here's this wide-ranging area for you to be in now.
Gotcha.
But she wasn't sure what it did. And then so when she woke up this morning, went and looked, and it had met our other 2 cows, and they had become friends.
Oh,
it met Stevie and Daisy.
So they didn't lose it?
No, it's there. It's just like, fuck, I hope it's here. And it was hanging out with the 2 OGs.
So how heavy is your average cow? Because they're fucking huge. Like
these are they're miniature cows, our ones. So they're like, I don't know, 200-300 kilos, maybe 200. No, maybe more 200 kilos.
More than that.
More. I mean, big cows. Like when you're talking about like big Angus cows and stuff.
Okay. And I know fuck all about cows, but I do know that I've seen a bunch of them. And when you like go up to a cow and its head's kind of hanging over the edge of the fence, I just think the head alone is just massive. I always think of that if I lay in my heaviest fucking right hook and I put my body into it and it was just like, boom, it just wouldn't, I'd hit it in the side of the head and it just would barely blink. because it's just a thick head, and I just think they're so heavy. But to like power over a fence, they've got power in. They must have a degree of power, but
fucking build of T-bones, bro.
It's not like they're doing fucking plyos and box jumps and stuff like that.
No, that's right. But they've got that, you know.
If they have to.
They got that, I guess, when, you know, it would have been super adrenalized.
Jesus.
Say this like I fucking know about cows. It's my first experience with cows for the listeners. So here on the internet, it tells me, I guess this is like some typical weights. For a male adult bull, it's 1.1 ton, so 1,100 kilos. For a female adult cow, 720 kilos. So they're big. They're like, ours are not like that at all. Anyway, big fucking animals.
Fuck.
Cool shit. That's the farm life, bro.
Farm life. Well, home life for me, I just told you. I walked through the house on the weekend with cat poo on the heel of my shoe. Not as interesting as your story.
You walked it in from outside or it was in the house?
I walked it in from outside. And then I trotted through the kitchen, did a circle around the island bench, walked to the front door to like... to the front door, came back, and we were like, oh, what's that smell? And sure enough,
just smeared shit through the house.
Little bits, and then, you know, you just don't know. You can't look close enough. Thank God it was only on the floorboards all the way through. And I just went crazy on it. I would have used a dozen rags and I mopped, I dried, I mopped again, and did some kind of spot fire work in some particular areas. But you know,
were you pissed off?
I actually wasn't. I was kind of on a mission. It was a long weekend. It was sunny. I was quite cool. I was around the house. I wasn't trying to go anywhere.
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck, I've got this. Don't let it break you, boy.
Oh man, that shit's so frustrating.
You know what the most annoying thing is? It was almost like a kick, like a punishment, because the kitty litter box, which usually lives inside, was outside the night before. And I said to Tash, why is that outside? She said, oh, I need to change the kitty litter on it. And I just haven't done it yet. And, you know, it smells a bit. So she just left it outside. And the cat's fine. Like, the cat can hold on for a couple of nights and, you know, you let her outside. She's always going in and out of the window anyway.
What do you mean hold on, as in like...
Like, she won't shit through the house,
right,
or anything like that.
Yeah.
She's pretty domesticated. And then I looked at that later on that night, and I also looked at it that morning, and I was like, oh, I should change that.
Yeah.
And then I was
Cat's like, yeah, you should,
you
bitch.
should fucking change that. Yeah. And then I was like, the next morning, same thing, and I thought, oh, a bit lazy, and just didn't do it straight away. And anyways, it was a bit like later on, she's gone to the toilet out there, and I've stepped in, and it was just, I was linking it all together, and I was like, fuck, Karma's telling me I was being a lazy bitch, and I need to take action faster.
I did this.
You know?
So kitty litter, cats will go to the toilet there. They'll shit in the kitty litter. That's the idea of it?
Yes.
Why is that?
I don't know,
Do you have to train them to go to that place?
I'd have no idea.
Yeah, right.
Like, yeah, well, cats, I think they want to, like, shit in something that's like dirt, because they want to cover it up.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. So they're like, you know, they might piss in your pot plant. I remember having kittens when I was really young, and the cats would come inside, and like, you'd walk into the kitchen and the pot plant, there's just dirt everywhere all over the floor, and the cats jumped up there and done a whiz, and then gone, you know how they cover it up, and they're just like,
yeah,
throwing it all over the kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but this cat, it was Brendan's cat, Bila from the gym.
Yeah, your cat now.
Now my cat.
What's its name?
Ghost. Now Ghosty. But she's good for it. She's in the kitty litter, blah, blah, blah.
Fuck.
You know?
Man, talking about poo, mate, I just listened to a podcast, this true crime one that I've been getting into lately. It's called Red Handed. It's quite a big show. It's run by two British girls, I think. And they just tell stories on like true crimes.
Okay.
They were telling the story of the Bali Nine. You know, the drug smugglers.
Yeah.
Pretty rough kind of deal, right? Like a group of young people that seem to be influenced by, you know, a couple of people who had more of a plan. And anyway, two of them got the death sentence. The rest of them just got 20 years or whatever in prison. But the prison is the Kobokan prison in Bali. Not in Bali, sorry, in Indonesia.
and
it's notorious. It's where Chappelle Corby was incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
The place seems fucking wild, like wild.
Notorious for what?
Notorious. Tourists can go there. You can pay to go and visit, and you
Yep.
can just walk through and like mingle with the prisoners and shit. It's got a huge heroin problem in there. You know, you can buy a better quality life for yourself. You can sort of get nice things and whatever if you're in there. The food's so bad that most of the prisoners will cook their own food using kerosene stoves. So I think everyone has like kerosene supply. Just weird, different compared to kind of what we know about prisons generally. But they were telling the story about the hole, which is like the solitary confinement, and it's called, what do they call it? They call it the rat hole.
Mm-hmm.
And the prison was built 40 years ago or something like that. And there's one toilet in the rat hole, like in the solitary confinement space, and it's never been cleaned.
Ever.
And it's just got this build up of shit from everyone that's ever spent time in solitary. And rats live in the it's like I guess it's like a long drop kind of toilet thing. Rats live down there and they crawl up and eat the different.
That's nasty.
The different layers of fecal matter that are living in that thing.
That's so gross.
Isn't that fucking horrible?
So you're in a little tiny cell, like maybe like a really small one in solitary confinement, or maybe it's not so small, it's just that you're on your own.
I think I can only imagine it would be small.
And there's a used to be long drop, but not so long drop anymore because the shit is basically coming up.
Crusted up with rats that are feeding on it.
I don't really want to know.
Bruh. Don't fucking take drugs to Bali, bro. That's the takeaway from today's episode.
You can get them when you get there.
Would you
No.
take drugs? So I'm like, bro, you want half a pinger? You're like, bro. Nah.
Hold.
Like it's
Hold
funny. It's funny when you think about like when you're in a place like that and you're like, whoa, if I like whatever, if you had something on you that you forgot,
Your life is over.
you could get shot for it. Yeah. It's wild to think about that happens also in this place where, and I can really kind of put this together, but Bali's like a party central hotspot within that part of Asia because Indonesia is Muslim predominantly. Bali's their one little Buddhist or Hindu majority, I think, Hindu majority island. So that's why Bali's what it is.
Gotcha.
Whereas, you know, the rest of Indonesia is very Muslim, and so they don't have as much in the way of nightlife and stuff like that. Yeah, me neither. That's why you get tourists from all over the world there, mostly from WA.
Yeah, very good. Well, that's a nice story. Fucking hell.
Yeah, that's a good segue into barbell strength
I know.
training. I thought we'd just go into it a bit. I've recently been re-engaging with the barbell this year.
Yes, I noticed.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, well, don't you remember a couple of months ago? I was like, how's your training going, man?
I said, fucking look at me, cunt.
No, actually, I thought, no, it was the reason why I said that was because I said, fuck, you were changing in the office or something. And I was like, fucking look at your booty and your legs right now.
Oh, yeah. I'm always getting changed just so people get to catch a glimpse.
And I was like, oh, it was a little white under there, but I was like, whoa, some size there.
Mass like a black man, but skin like a white man.
Anyway, I remember you were like, oh man, fuck. I've just been barbell training for quite a long spell, like this last kind of 12 months, would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
It's become like a real kind of cornerstone of your training. You're like, yeah, goes on over the months.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, for the people who, if you're listening and you're like a true barbell official, I'm looking at JT over here who's, you know, a disciple of the barbell. I've not been training it to that degree, but I've been lifting twice a week.
Sure.
You know, and playing around. It's been a pretty low volume approach generally. And I've actually there's periods there where I'm like, let's see how low volume I can go and still get a result from it. And then, so, you know, I've been testing sort of every few months. It's been really good. It's been good. I guess it's because of I guess it's because I got a long training history that I can probably get away with lower volume and making some gains. Might not necessarily be the case if I was earlier on in the thing. And I also definitely recognize there's sort of an endpoint that I can reach with the amount of volume I'm doing. you know, like we had those TAFE kids that were in here yesterday, and we were talking before. There's one kid that was in here 20 years old or whatever. We'd say his name was Miles.
Yep.
So he did a 240 kilo deadlift. And I'm like, fuck, my max ever is like 185.
Jesus.
And I think my max right now, based on the amount that I'm doing, I don't think I could get beyond 200. Like I would have to go to more days of training per week, more sets, more accessory work.
Maybe some more mass even.
Yeah, maybe, but not even that, because you look at it and it's like, no, actually, a lot of people smaller than me can lift, you know, substantially more. But I think it's just getting that extra volume in that probably takes you to that next level. Anyway, I'm not particularly interested in that. But yeah, this latest phase we're focusing on, or the latest 2 phases we're working on Zercher squat, which was super fun. It was my first exposure to it when I went to that range of strength seminar, like where I properly kind of gave it some attention. So since then I've been focusing on that, and it's been an awesome lift.
So tell me more about or maybe explain in case someone doesn't know what the Zercher squat is. And then also, tell me like, what's the wrap on it? You like the movement?
Yeah, so it's a squat, a barbell squat performed where the bar sits in the crook of your elbows. So you can do it from a squat rack. You just kind of have it racked low and just get in there with your elbows, and you're pulling it in against your body and doing the squat. But we've been doing it from the floor, which I really like because it's simplistic. There's no rack involved, and there's kind of layers to it. So you would do like a partial deadlift just to get the bar to the top of your knee, and then you would sit down into like a shallow squat so that you can so that you can get your elbows under the bar, secure it in the rack, and then come up out of it. And so, you know, if you're doing reps, up and down, but if you're doing singles, you would just do that once, right? You would do that half deadlift, rack it, stand up, and then the rep is complete.
Mad.
I think what I like about it is if you think about like the traditional squats, like barbell squat, back squat, and front squat, they do require a lot of mobility to do them well. Like back squatting, even the shoulder position, like racking it comfortably is tough. Like I know for me, and I'm generally pretty mobile, but like I've had a bit of an iffy shoulder for the last year and a bit, and sort of flares up at times after jiu-jitsu or whatever. That rack position has not been comfortable for me.
Sure.
Right? But then further, I know that like since my knee operation, back squatting generally just doesn't feel that great. I feel like my mechanics have changed a little bit around that.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can still do it, but I'm just like, I don't love it. It just doesn't feel that great. Front squats, similarly, that's also been quite awkward on the shoulder. But if you think about like anytime you've taught front squat to people, there's so much to get through in terms of mobility, like the wrist mobility and the thoracic positioning and stuff.
Yep.
What I like about the Zercher is it's pretty much like anyone can do it.
Yep.
It's a bit uncomfortable to hold heavy weight in that position.
Yep.
Especially when you're newer to it. It's not really such a thing for me now. But the mechanics of it are very comfortable. It's like a goblet squat. You know, you think about where the kettlebell is when you're doing a goblet squat or a dumbbell.
Yep.
The Zercher is kind of the same. It's just sitting a little bit lower.
Yes.
But it's giving you that counterweight, right? Because the weight is in front of you.
Yep.
And so from a hip mobility perspective, it's easier because of the counterweight. And then the rack position itself is actually quite comfortable because you're just holding your elbows in front of you.
Totally.
You know, so I know of one particular strength coach that, good friend of the show, who's been talking a bit of shit about it because he's like, why are people Zerchers? Like,
name him, her.
You know our boy Clint Hill.
Oh.
Good friend of the show. Great coach. But no, he was like, he's seen all these people. I think it got quite popularized probably about the same time that I got into it. You know,
Yeah.
But he's watching all these people on Instagram who don't really squat. And they're doing Zercher. And he's like, what are you fucking doing? He's like, just back squat for a few years. And I'm like, I see that point.
Yes, yeah.
But my account...
It was an opinion in response.
Exactly.
To people like maybe substituting it for back squatting.
Yeah.
Where they haven't earned the right.
And exactly. You haven't earned the right because you just haven't done the basics.
Yeah.
But we had a really cool chat about it. And I was sort of debating like this idea that a back squat is like foundational. I'm like, I actually don't agree with that. It's foundational if you're in that realm. But again, as someone who's taught a room full of adults how to back squat, most people can't do it very well. Like it's not like a goblet squat. That's foundational. That's fucking easy. Or a sandbag squat. Like pretty much anyone can do that. You just alter the weight, but there's no major hurdles to get over in order for them to do it with efficiency.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas a back squat, I find there's heaps.
And I guess that's why, like, I can see where he's coming from. And like for all the reasons why you say it's hard to get into it is why it's so nutritious a movement, because you do have to have, besides the shoulder mobility, just to kind of get into one comfortably, you need, you need a bit more ankle mobility than you do in anything that's front loaded, because you're sitting more, or you're leaning forward more in a back squat.
Yep.
And you go into a deeper range of motion, especially where the glute and the hamstrings involved in a back squat, if you're going below parallel.
Yep.
So I guess it's foundational that, like, if I was to say do one movement that gets most things inside of it, all in one, you should strive to work towards being able to get a back squat. Whereas, like, if you're going, the Zercher in that position or goblet, that's like for beginners while they're still working on getting into a more advanced position.
Yeah, it's true.
So it depends on where you want to apply it on any one person's journey.
That's right. It's contextual, right?
Yeah.
All drills are. But I think
and then with the back squat, you can lift more.
That's true.
It's got a high ceiling.
But if I look at I guess where I've probably moved away from it, like where I've started to feel like it's less foundational is when I look back, like all of those things are great, right? Like developing all those attributes, the mobility, that strength through the hips, the shoulder, the shoulder up, all that stuff that's required to do it well. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, I can think back to people that I've trained where we've worked on it for 12 months, 18 months, and they're still only squatting half of their body weight because we're still getting through that mobility layer.
Yes, yeah.
And I'm like, we could have just done Bulgarian split squats from day one and none of this shit would have been a problem.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where I'm like, there's I think that it's always a worthy journey if that's what everyone agrees on.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes that I think and you see it particularly, you see it with all training modalities, but with that that adherence to the barbell where it's it's got to be the bar, it's got to be back squat, deadlift, whatever, military press.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. I disagree with that. When I'm talking about general physical preparedness for the masses.
Totally. Yeah, if I'm doing GPP with anyone that's new to the gym or, that I'm PTing, I'll always use the goblet squat. And, goblet squat, Zercher squat, kind of one and the same thing in terms of the setup, the loading. So, yeah, I'd totally use it at the beginning of someone's journey. It might be a little bit too complicated for a complete newbie to throw it in the elbows, but for anyone else, yeah, it's definitely a sick movement. I've done it. I've done, a few sessions with it and played around with it because we were coaching it in here, but I have not taken it through, phases of training like you have yet, but I would love to. It's comfortable.
Well, I believe now you can't because you're an Olympic lifting guy.
I am.
It's all about front squat, overhead squat, back squat, baby.
Oh, my God.
How's that going? What spurred you on to get into the Ollie stuff?
Look, I just started, literally 2 sessions in. But I've always loved it. I love the feeling of it. And I've always looked up to Ollie lifters. It's such an amazing feat. It's definitely the expression of power and speed in Ollie lifting, different to general hyphy, say, or just strength training. I like the power element. So really, I was trying to get into some more athletic stuff over the last 12 months. And I did need to keep lifting weights in my program. And I thought, well, why don't I just do some Ollie lifting? Because to me, I've just been dealing with, transitioning into 3 kids and just trying to figure out life in general. If I look at Ollie lifting, it stacks up a lot of things that I want to do all in one, the pursuit for a better Ollie lift, more efficient lifts and more weight. I need to work on my mobility.
Where's your biggest hurdle with the mobs?
With the mobs, overhead.
Right.
Yeah, thoracic and shoulder. I've had a shoulder issue since February. Did one jiu-jitsu class and broke myself.
Yeah,
it's actually a very small little.
That's when you got to just stick with jiu-jitsu.
Build a game around it.
Yeah.
It was just a little thing, but it stopped me from going overhead for some time, and that's coming better now. So yeah, mainly the overhead thing, and obviously the lower body could always get more mobile.
Yeah.
And then it's the overhead, and it's the fucking front rack, dog.
Shoulder again?
It's not because of the shoulder issue, although I can feel it in there when I'm trying to get my elbows high. But it's just that I don't have a very open shoulder there. It's just tight there in the triceps or whatever that is, just to get my elbows high and keep a grip.
Yeah.
So that's going to hold me back as well. So yeah, I'm keen to, and I've been wanting to lift weights. Like there's something about the Ollie lifts and the training that's different to the body weight stuff that I've been doing for the last few years. I like that it's a little more focused on, say, 2 moves, like, snatch, clean and jerk. And obviously there's a variety of things you can do inside of that. It's endless. But in the body weight, just the way I say it, it's such a really big realm of stuff. And I'm still doing some of that, but I'm kind of accessorizing around my Ollie lifting, and that's the idea. I'm still building my weeks out at the moment. So I got 2 days of lifting, which is not enough, but just let me get through the first phase.
Yeah.
And then I'll add another day and probably add another day, or at least some more accessories in with the other bodyweight sessions that I'm doing during the week.
So those other 2 days that you will add will be, you mean?
A couple of extra days of lifting.
Yeah, okay. So you're building up the volume there.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Like I just started, and I got a program from Jo Taylor.
Yep.
Coach from here. She's now up at Ballina coaching.
Yeah. Bought
a place up in Lennox with Big Jazza. Shouts to Jared Thatcher.
Dog.
Just for being my dog. But yeah, so it's a meager 2 days at the moment.
Yeah.
And it's got a mixture of skill and strength, but it really needs 4 days. You know what I mean? Just because there's so much skill involved.
Yeah.
And I feel already that I want to be doing more.
It's really a coordination thing, isn't it?
Totally. Yeah. I'm like, I just need more reps and more strength underlying in certain areas to help those reps. So.
And so then with that, are you doing then 2 days of like body weight strength work, which I'm guessing is mostly upper body?
Yes.
Outside of that?
Yes.
Assuming you've had to simplify the goal, like whatever you're chasing there.
Yes.
What are your kind of focuses on in the bodyweight sessions?
Foundations and volume, basically. So,
i.e. mass. Basically. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Like that, keep it classy.
Yep. Yeah. I'm enjoying it. And some days it's 3 sessions a week. It's actually that type of training that you can, like I'm never going to failure. And I'm just doing 3 sets of everything in, bent arm, straight arm, and a few things in between, like horizontal, vertical. So there might be freaking 12 to 14 movements, 3 sets each, and I kind of superset them. 2, 3, 4.
That's quite a lot of exercises, yep.
Yep. And but it's the type of work that doesn't need a lot of rest.
Yep.
And you're supersetting along the way, and you're not going to failure. And very slowly build, like adding a rep type of thing.
Yep.
And fuck, I love it. It's so simple.
How long does it take?
I love it. 90 minutes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are there specific movement goals within that or not?
Not at this stage.
Nice.
Yeah. Like I've just kind of wiped it off the table. Had that holiday for a few weeks, a month ago. And the shoulder injury was more acute before then. So a lot of that stuff the focus had shifted anyway.
Yeah.
So I just kind of freed myself from that and did what I knew I could do, which is I do love just getting out a foundational session, which is what I did through COVID, which was like my best and favorite time that I can remember.
Wow.
Which was I was just training 3 days a week and just doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Why'd you go away from that stuff after COVID?
After COVID? Oh, well, yeah. I just jumped back on the higher movement goal.
Yeah.
Rather than, hey, just just build the machine or the body.
And so what is it then about the, like you said, like that felt really good back then and now you're back in that foundational thing that feels really good.
Yeah.
What is it about the chasing the movement goals thing that didn't feel so good in contrast?
I guess it didn't feel bad. It didn't feel bad. it didn't feel bad. I kind of like, I think that my body's changing as I'm getting older and my lifestyle has changed as well. So when you're chasing the movement goals, they can get quite specific. And also the time that you spend to achieve those goals, because the slider moves towards skill. And when it moves towards skill, it's moving a little bit more away from a focus on strength and mobility, Mm-hmm. And for me, I guess, and I never really articulated until now, I'm thinking I don't want to, I'm more short of time and I want to walk around feeling a lot better. I want to feel good and able all the time. So I don't want to be like, I'll use handstands as an example. I don't want to be wasting more time trying to get a trick, of a particular type where it needs, like, I just want to actually spend the small time that I have keeping my body feeling good day to day. Whereas if you're doing ring routines all the time, like I pick up a little, like I'm a little bit tight around my traps. I might have a little bit of a knot behind my scap, like all the time. If it's not one side, it's the other. If it's not above levator scap, it's fucking the rhomboid, somewhere like that. And I just don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
I just want to walk around doing big range of motion things, take care of overhead, horizontal, vertical, where I just feel I walk around feeling better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, that's kind of it. I'm like, for now, I don't really want to do that. Or for all those niggles and stuff, I'm going to go do that in ollie lifting now.
Yeah. I'll build the imbalances with the barbell now.
Yeah. So, I'm kind of the skilled and the energy and the thought behind, achieving a skill thing is kind of going into the ollie lifting for now. So it's like, let's just simplify the body weight stuff.
And so say taking that, and that makes sense, taking that view that the more skill driven stuff is tough. Like it can be tough on the body and I mean, any training can be, but it also doesn't kind of fit with what you're doing now, right? This is what I'm understanding.
Yeah.
When did it fit more, and when did it feel better to you or more appropriate to your, to what you wanted?
Oh, fuck.
Or was it always a grind?
No. Probably any time before the recent times. It's just a kind of a new train of thought that I've had like this last 12 months, really.
Yeah.
I've always loved that as a target, and I would definitely recommend for anyone to put all their eggs on that kind of, that journey, because I think it's like a really cool one. It's no different to me going to ollie lifting. I'm still doing that where I'm like chasing a skill.
It's new, it's novel.
Yes, yeah. And
there's a grind in the like in the beginning everything's fun.
Yes.
But then when you really want to dive into that thing and develop some capacity, there's definitely a grind that has to take place.
And if I think about it, what changed was training time. Because you're working on a skill, you need time for the skill. But you can't just work on the skill, like you still need to be doing the strength and mobility work as well.
Yeah.
Like the skill isn't this all-encompassing thing. Yeah, it requires those things, but you have to also be building the others separately to that. So it requires more time. And when you've got less time, and I remember programming for myself, last year and earlier this year, I was like, let's get some bent arm strength with ring routines. And it's like, you try that, and it's like, nah, it doesn't work. You got to have a separate strength day as well.
Right.
I did for that, for certain skills.
Yeah. Or capacities.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I can't just jump in and start eating the cake right now. I can't just keep eating the cake. Like I've got to stay in the kitchen a little bit. And then, well, I don't really have enough time to stay in the kitchen and eat the cake. And if I just try to eat the cake, I don't feel so hot. So no, I'm just like, hey, just make sure the recipe's sweet and I'm ready to go all the time.
Make sure those baking trays are lined, greaseproof paper.
Greaseproof.
Buttered up. I feel you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of it at the moment.
To sort of simplify what, like a thing there for listeners, when something's new to you in the training realm, it's it's a skill at that point because you don't really know how to do it. You haven't developed the coordination around it. So anything, a back squat is skill at first.
Totally.
A deadlift, probably the very bottom end of skill, but it's still skill. Or something highly complex like a kick up to a handstand, let's say. But then once you become really proficient in that thing, it's no longer really a skill. You could argue that there is always a skill component to being really good at it. But there is a point where now the deadlift is just about strength or hypertrophy. You got the coordination down, you just do it.
Yeah.
And you're building strength or reps or whatever. But that skill component, like in that early stage, it takes a lot of mental bandwidth.
Yes.
Because you're like having to think really hard about it. You're having to suck, like sets and reps suck. You fail repetitions. You miss the lift. You fall out of the handstand, whatever it is. And so it takes a toll. And so that's something that you got to factor in, like you've said, where it's like, well, that becomes a whole new sort of facet of the training where it's like the skill development. I still got to do my strength and shit outside of that.
Yes.
But there is a point where if you stick with it long enough, that handstand does just become a strength and mobility drill. Yep. And if you could theoretically just do handstand push-ups, like if you could just bang out like 5 sets of 8 handstand push-ups, then that would take care of your upper body pressing strength.
Yep.
Right? Like if you were really that proficient at it. But to get to that point, you got to grind through the skill place for ages. So sometimes it's like, let's just press a barbell instead.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, it's not even arguably, definitively, there is much less skill involved in pressing a barbell than there is in performing a handstand push-up.
It's true. And it's funny you explain all that. It makes sense because the stuff that I'm doing that's foundational for other people who are new, it's completely a high-level skill. Do you know what I mean? Like we're doing skin the cats for like reps or shoulder stands for reps and stuff like that, which, it was a high-level skill at the start. But now I'm doing chest to walls and handstand holds, just straight ones, but I'm not fucking trying to do a press or anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it's at. Does that?
Yeah, it's kind of similar thing for me with sort of getting back to the barbell stuff lately. Last couple of years, I haven't really been interested in skill development in my training. I just want to come in and train a few days a week, get strong, get flexible.
Yep.
And so keeping it simple and, focusing on lifting weights has really been that. And I've been doing like weighted chin-ups and weighted dips and stuff.
Yep.
Versus in the past, it was like, what new things am I working on? What ring skills do I want to go after now? It's like, man, I'm not with being a father now and having less time to train and all that, I'm like, fuck, I just want to keep it simple and get the gains. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important, for folks listening to kind of look at whatever. If what you're doing is working, then keep doing it. But if you're finding that you're not really getting what you want, I think for the majority of fitness goers, it's no skill. Majority of fitness goers are just doing fucking fitness.
Yes.
It's exercise and there's no skill to it and it's F45 or it's some interval bullshit.
Just burning calories.
Exactly. You're just like pushing, squatting. And you're never getting better at any kind of, you're not acquiring anything beyond, more sweat on the floor. So, but if we look at like the movement people that we really know, it's so skill heavy. Mm-hmm. And I can think of so many movement folks like myself at times who have just been like, I'm fucking sick of all this skill development. I just want to do some training. Mm-hmm. So it's a sliding scale, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
I went to test my deadlift this morning. I tested Zercher earlier in the week. And then like today was with my groups. I was like, guys, we're testing, this testing week. We had we had Monday. Monday was public holiday, so we came and trained on Tuesday, and then again on Wednesday. So Wednesday I was like, I'll just keep it light today because I'd done the Zercher the day before. Today I was going to test deadlift. I got to like my normal kind of working weight, and it felt really heavy, and I was like, pull the pin.
Fuck.
Not today, guys. Yeah, it didn't feel good at all.
Yep. And you're doing conventional deadlift?
Yeah, which hasn't been in the program. We've been working on split stance deads and hip thrusts and stuff.
Okay.
And also the Zercher, which I think has quite a carryover to the dead. So I was interested to see how has the dead changed based on what we've been, based on not actually doing it specifically.
Yeah.
You know, the conventional deadlift.
Yeah.
All three that tested, Sammy, Raylene, and Dilch, all put extra weight on the bar.
Sure.
Substantially.
Yeah.
Which was sick, but yeah, I was like, I pulled the pin on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you compare yourself to them, you're much further down the training experience years than they are. And, you know, they're always going to be making gains, I suppose. And yeah, you haven't been doing the specific movement. You said leading into this test.
Yeah.
That's a huge factor.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't think that was a thing. I think I am stronger at it.
Okay.
But it was more just that I didn't feel good today.
Happens.
You know? And yeah, absolutely. Like I've kind of squeezed more of the juice from my potential there.
Yep.
So to get gains now, I got to kind of pay a bit more.
How'd you go with the Zercher though?
Zercher was good. I put up 150,
awesome. Which,
you know, I'd never tested it before. So whatever I got was going to be great. But yeah, I'd been working at the top end of the working sets in the final weeks. I was squatting like 3 sets of 3 at 130. And so I was like, I think 150 would be cool. Maybe not. Maybe I'll land at 140. Let's see. And then I had a crack. I think I went from, I don't know if I did 140 or if I just went straight. Yeah, I must have done 140 and then 150. I was like, wow, that was good. And
you do the thing from the floor where you rack it up.
Yeah,
and
deadlift
then
it.
And you do the 1 rep. Like after you stand.
That's it.
Then
yeah, it comes to the knees. You rack it. You come up and it's done.
And you can just drop it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I put it back down. Same way I can. But
yeah,
you can just, you know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, is that included in a rep in the set?
Yeah, that was something the guys were always, like, getting psyched out on. Like, a lot of, like, some of them would, like, Raylene, I noticed, would always do an extra rep. I'm like, dude, you're doing, like, it's sets of 3. Why are you doing 4 reps? She's like, that first rep just doesn't feel like a rep.
Well, it's funny because, and if you think of it task-based, like lifting something off the floor, it's like a deadlift. Is the movement lifting it up, or is the movement like a squat where you're like, you've got something on you and you've squatted down and come up? Like, are we doing a Zercher deadlift or are we doing a Zercher squat?
I know what you mean. Well, the difference there is that the deadlift begins with a concentric contraction, concentric phase, whereas a squat starts with an eccentric.
So that's why I'm saying.
Yeah. So in that way, it's the concentric that is when we're testing, and you know, you could argue
part.
That's the part that, like, that's right. That's the toughest bit.
So you can drop it from the top?
So yeah, so if you nail the concentric, science tells us you have the eccentric.
Sure.
You know, you're whatever, 10%, 20% stronger in an eccentric contraction.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, and because testing is sort of
it's like dropping the barbell off a deadlift.
Exactly. Or a snatch, right?
Yep.
It's like, did you get it overhead? Great, dump it, you know?
Imagine having to snatch it back down.
Yeah, that would be some bullshit. I want you to catch it in the hook grip, return it to the floor.
Oh, God.
And you could, if you had to. But yeah, it's like, what for? But yeah, I know what you mean. So even with that first rep of the Zercher, it's kind of like your hips are a bit higher than they would be when you come down for your next rep.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think it's the same kind of thing, you know.
It's only confusing because of what you call it.
Yeah.
Zercher deadlift or Zercher squat. You know what I mean? Oh, is the Zercher deadlift the one, or what do you call it?
That's a different thing.
Yeah, that's when you like rack it from the bottom.
Yeah, so you hinge down to the floor, dig your elbows in.
And that's called a Zercher deadlift.
Yeah, you're kind of half Jefferson because
that looks cool.
Naturally, your spine is rounded a bit. Yeah, that's a hectic lift. He's a big fan. What'd you get for your max Zercher deadlift?
Got JT over here.
140, bro. 140.
Jesus.
140, 150. Decent. I fucking get that.
Question I've been wanting to ask you for the last few weeks. Would Joey return back to Ollie lifting one day? Because I think part of my psyche with the Ollie lifting is because when I first started training, you were doing Ollie lifting. And I was like, I always looked at it and going, fuck, that's amazing. Looked at you doing it going, that's awesome. I did my first Ollie lifting with you guys, you and T, and then went on to practice some more with Yazzie Carter and stuff. But I thought, fuck, Joey's so good at this. You had great mobility. I've always looked at your squat and gone, fuck, I want that one day. Man, I went and saw a video of me. I should fucking show you this video of me, learning to snatch for the first time. And you can see how tight I am and how uncoordinated I am in it. It's just ridiculous. In the old gym, it's so funny. But yeah, I always thought, fuck, would Joey do some Ollie lifting again? Where does it sit with the bulletproof thing? Oh, I never see them going overhead with the barbell, doing an overhead press. And I don't always see you guys training, but tend to go overhead with single arm a lot with the kettlebell.
Yeah, I try to. It's really an efficiency thing for that. Where it's we'll do 1 or 2 barbell lifts and then put the barbells away just because they're kind of space inefficient and and I try not to use racks. If you're going overhead pressing and stuff, you usually want racks, right?
Yep.
I personally would like to get back into it. I have thought about it a lot. Watching you do it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. But I train, at the moment I train at 7 in the morning and I don't feel like doing that shit at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I can come and do some Zerchers or some deadlifts.
Yeah.
But doing speed drills and stuff and coordinate, I'm like, I got no fucking interest.
Yeah.
Potentially, time permitting, I'd be down to do an Arvo thing.
Hell yeah.
I think that always worked really well for me. It was you kind of good energy in the afternoon, couple of hours after lunch.
Yeah. Warm from the whole day.
Yeah, if I could fit it in with the schedule, I'd potentially jump in and do some with you.
Fuck, that'd be so good.
It's definitely one of those styles of training that I think really, it's much more enjoyable when you're kind of going set for set with a mate.
Totally.
Isn't it? Or a few people.
Yeah, because...
Watch a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I've been... Well, it's only been a week or so now. Had Ash jump in the other day. She was doing her thing next to me and I think she knows because she is an Ollie lifter, she knows the benefits of being there when someone's there. So when I was there, she was like, yeah, let's do it. And then Steph as well. Because you have to psych yourself up somewhat. The heavier it gets.
It's aggressive, yeah.
It's aggressive. It's like fucking going skating a 12 set of stairs and skating off the end of it. Doing it alone or whatever it is, that set that fucking freaks you out a bit. You need to be there with homies, running up to the edge of it and bailing and then going for it. You need that psych up from people. It's just it happens in such a split moment. And bailing a lift, getting under it, or committing to catching it on your shoulders overhead. You need that G up, that extra energy.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I'd be down. I like the idea of it for sure. It'd be fun. We haven't trained together for ages.
Yeah, it's true. And you've still got the mobility for this shit.
I can do it, but it's not my squat. My mobs is not what it was. And that's fine, right? Whatever, I can work around that. But yeah, my squat was so comfortable before. I look at my olds and I'm like, damn, I was just really super smooth through it. Now, because one side's tight,
the knee,
because of the knee, it just doesn't have the range that it used to.
Yep.
It's just changed the way the whole mechanics feel because when I come down to the bottom and try and hit that end range, I'm naturally going to rotate a little bit into the side that's unaffected.
Yep.
And so then I don't rotate, so I stop a bit early and it's just, I have to think about it. Whereas before it was just, I didn't have to think.
Nah. But when's the last time you wore Ollie lifting shoes? That might help.
I never wore them.
You never ever wore them?
No, I never used them. Always went barefoot or barefoot shoes. But I think now I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would help a lot with the squat position.
Yeah, yeah.
and I'd be prepared to make that admission for myself. I think back then I was like, fuck that shit, like accessories, you know? Whereas now I'm like, I need the accessory.
Yep. Mad. Yeah. Oh, well, let's make it happen one day.
All right. Well, we'll fucking catch up on the numbers later in the year.
Oh, I'm trying to get ahead of you before you join me then.
Right. You got to, I don't know, who knows how long you got, but fucking start lifting, bro.
Start running.
Get that volume up. Cheers, bro.
All right. Peace.
See you guys.